happy that you're on the show.
Happy to be here.
I'm with Achilleos. In many ways, I feel like it's meant to be that we're here. You want to share how we bumped into each other recently?
Yeah, okay. So there was an amazing busker musician called Glenn Wee who was playing on the corner, who I've seen a few times before that.
Had the privilege to interview Glenn on this show.
Yeah, saw that.
And now yourself.
Yeah, looking forward to see that. Yeah, I think you were like sitting right close to him, like super close. I noticed you sitting there and I'm like, that's kind of cool. And then kind of listened to him for an hour or so. Oh, I don't know actually how long it was. Then we kind of got talking after he finished playing. We all started talking in a little group of us, a couple other people as well. Somehow we realized that we had a connection. And
we got talking about high school. And which high school did you go to?
Northcote High.
And I was like, Northcote High? I went there. When did you finish?
2008.
I did too. So 14 years ago, we went to the same high school, finished year 12 together. I had never met you before.
I don't know how.
And you don't remember me, right?
I don't remember you. No.
And 14 years later in the streets, watching Glenn Wee, we connect. And
yeah, crazy. That's a crazy synchronistic moment.
Yes.
And I remember feeling, that was like, oh, this is surprising and interesting. Kind of like those moments. I'm like, what's the universe pulling out here? You know? How does this kind of moment just happen out of nowhere? So it was cool.
Really was drawn to your energy and to later find out that you are very spiritual. What made you begin your spiritual journey?
It's a good question. Yeah, even that I question like, when did my spiritual journey begin? I guess when I was born or even before that, but like there's some specific moments like 18 years of age, I took a lot of mushrooms. That was one big catalyst to a spiritual awakening, but also after that I couldn't integrate the lessons and I kind of went back into conditioning until I then went to Peru and did ayahuasca, and I would say that was the real like start of my spiritual journey. What led me towards even wanting to do these things, I guess, were a lot of trauma in childhood. You know, living in a house environment that didn't feel safe emotionally. Materially, I was very taken care of. Parents, I was a single child. My parents ended up divorcing when I was like, I don't know, 5 or 6.
I'm a single child too.
Yeah. And so there was always food provided. I always got things. Never issue with the material, but emotionally it was a lot going on, you know? Yeah.
Were you closer to your mum or your dad?
I think when I was a kid, my dad passed when I was 12 years old. So,
I'm sorry.
But before that, definitely was closer with my dad. But after they divorced, I actually spent more time with my mum. Their relationship was toxic and terrible, and I love them both. But living in a house with them was a lot of fighting, a lot of yelling, arguing. Living in that situation was intense. But then my dad passing at 12 years old, that was also like the next step of like, fuck, what is reality? Like really turned my world upside down. And I think from there, not that I started questioning things right then, but I think that led to the journey of like trying to see beyond what's on the surface. Because like, I think when something really major happens, you start to ask deeper questions, because it's like, well, what's the point now when someone you love the most has been taken away? It's like, start to really ask the universe for questions. So
I lost my father just before I was 16. For some time, I questioned, what's the point of life? Why? It was so painful to lose him, and it felt really unfair. Life's unfair to lose him. Did you feel like that?
Yeah. I felt, I think angry, and it was unfair. Why me? These kind of questions, or why did this happen? Especially because my dad passed in his sleep, so there was no like answer to why. It was like, this is very random, and there was no logical reason really to understand what happened, which then created more questions. And that's been a whole process and journey to go down that road. So
where did you grow up?
Northcote, actually. So Westgarth, beautiful area to grow up. Lots of magical moments growing up. Also then the mix of like having this quite intense volatile home situation.
Sure.
definitely, mentally and emotionally volatile anyway.
And ethnicity?
My dad, his parents were both born in Cyprus, which is a Greek island, or now half Turkish. And my mum is Australian, so like Irish ancestry, Danish, German, mix of all those kind of things. A little bit of Viking in there, I think. I'm born in Australia. Both my parents were born in Australia, but definitely have some of that, that Greek blood for sure.
What do you do nowadays?
I do teach meditation, do sound healings. Also love doing spoken word poetry. Probably also want to move more into coaching. Yeah, just taking each day as it comes. And I need to feel inspired to do things. I don't want to just do something for the sake of it. So if I feel inspired to put on a certain event, I'll do that. Yeah, seeing what's coming at the moment. Right now, it's more poetry and busking. I'm connecting a lot to buskers on the street at the moment. I've created an event around that with a friend, and a little group of us have gotten together and done a couple of them now where we just busk on the street or busk outside one of these bars called Resistance Bar. It's like an open mic, open jam, music, poetry, and that's been really cool exploring that at the moment. So I like, the artistic side and the spiritual healing type of events. They're like my two worlds at the moment. So,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you remember the time when you first tried mushrooms at 18?
Yeah, that's.
What was the thought process there? It was just, let's have fun, do it, or?
No, so it's weird with psychedelics or with especially plants and mushrooms. I just had this intuition, this knowing. Like I read about it. I definitely read about it. Read what they could do, and was really grew up listening to the Beatles and 60s music, which was very influenced by these kind of things. There was just a knowing that this was a way to expand my mind. I just knew it, even before I had done anything. I don't know how. That was just something that felt very real and true inside of me. And I think I always had a very strong intuition about certain things that there's just a knowing there. So there was a few times I took mushrooms, but very small amounts. So nothing really, I didn't get the full experience, I would say. Like I got little visuals or whatever, little feelings, but I'm like, nah, there's more. I want to break through whatever my mind conditioning is. I need to break through that. And my mind conditioning at that point wasn't great, wasn't sleeping well, very, very anxious, depressed, stressed out, was using a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs, just wasn't in a very steady place emotionally. I think I was very disconnected from my emotions. And when I did take those mushrooms, I took 20 mushrooms to be exact, and I had the intention to break through my conditioning. And I think I got more than what I bargained for, but it gave me exactly what I needed, for sure.
Yeah. I'm a virgin when it comes to all of this.
Yeah.
I've never tried anything. Mm-hmm. The closest I've come to would have been a year ago. I tried a tiny tab of LSD. Afterwards smoked, purple haze or something.
Okay.
That's
weed?
Weed.
Yeah, okay.
That's all I've ever tried in my life.
Yeah.
I've never even smoked a cigarette.
So you did the two things at once. That's pretty cool.
In the space of 2 weeks.
Yeah, okay.
That was last year.
Okay.
And I haven't touched it since.
Yeah.
To hear your perspective, to learn about this is fascinating for me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I just want to know a bit more, and hopefully for the listeners, they can take away some useful things from your experience. I am going to a retreat this weekend, and we'll try some ayahuasca. Now, ayahuasca is kind of getting popular, I suppose, all over the internet and stuff. But ayahuasca is not a drug. It's a plant. What do you have to say about that? Just leave it open to you.
Yeah, no, I love that.
To take it anywhere you want to go with it.
Totally, yeah. No, I think that's a very important distinction to make. I think before you try it, you don't really know the difference, You just say anything that alters your mind is a drug, but I did it in Peru, so I went to the jungle to try this medicine, and they call it medicine,
That's the origin.
Yes, yeah, the Amazon, and two completely different, like a vine and a plant, completely unrelated, but mixed together, they create this very deep, powerful experience. So even
when you say a vine and a plant mixed together, what do you mean?
Okay, yeah. So the ayahuasca vine is it's a vine, but then mixed with certain plants that have DMT in them. Those two together create this experience. The ayahuasca vine by itself doesn't have DMT in it.
So by itself, does it do anything? the
I think
vine?
it's still powerful, but it's not psychoactive. But mixed with the DMT, it's become psychoactive.
Right.
Or the vine helps the plants become psychoactive. Yeah.
Okay.
So those two things together. So the story, even like how did that happen? You know, who
Yeah.
first figured that out? They say over there that the plants told people, like the plants spoke to the natives there, like certain shamans, tribe people, that the plants spoke to them and said, do this. So even that, to hear that from a Western conditioning standpoint, it's like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But going over there, that kind of started to open my mind to certain things beyond what I thought were possible before.
Can I go back to mushrooms?
Mm-hmm.
So mushrooms, is that also a mind-altering plant?
Yeah, I mean,
So
psilocybin.
like ayahuasca, but has different effects on your mind?
Yeah, it's very, very different than ayahuasca, but
So it's not a drug, mushrooms?
I don't consider it a drug, unless you consider anything that alters your mind a drug, which could even be food. But
Okay, then I don't know what the medical distinction of this would be in terms of drugs, but let's just say it's natural.
yes, yeah.
So mushrooms, ayahuasca, just natural things you can find.
Completely natural, from nature, from earth, and
So different from that little tab of LSD I had. That's not natural.
it's not naturally made, but the components in it. I'm not like scientific or anything, but I've heard they are actually natural. Like I've heard LSD and mushrooms both don't actually add anything to the brain, so they're just kind of like, I don't know, releasing inhibitors to our vision and how we perceive things. I don't know if that's completely accurate, but yeah, it's compared to mushrooms. Like they grow from the earth, they grow from on cow poo. They appear all over the world, so it's not much more natural you can get. That doesn't mean that anything natural is good, because there are other kinds of mushrooms that are poisonous, obviously. But yeah, it's pretty amazing that it grows all over the world and has this kind of amazing effect, or very profound effect on certain people. Terence McKenna, who was he was the expert in psychedelics and research and talking about it. He had certain theories around mushrooms and their involvement in humanity and our consciousness, which not, you can't really ever prove it, but very interesting theories. He thinks like our evolvement as a species might have came down to mushrooms.
Wow.
Like, because I think the human brain or the monkey brain doubled in size over a certain period. Like it went completely different. It just completely expanded. And his theory is that was from maybe them eating psychedelic mushrooms, and then maybe that's how we then came into language and stuff. It's pretty far out there, but who knows really. So
I can go with that.
yeah, you can go with it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like stick to any one belief about many things, but I like to explore different ideas and see if it resonates.
What are psychedelics?
Good question. Yeah, to me, I think I feel that psychedelics are something that bring you into a deeper aspects of yourself, can bring up certain things inside of you. So if you have something buried that maybe your conscious mind has repressed, psychedelics can access these things, which can be scary depending on how you deal with it. Also, psychedelics can, open us up to other realms of reality, or maybe what actual reality is without our mind kind of censoring certain information, because it would be too overstimulating otherwise. It's a hard one to define. For me, it's just been, it's allowed me to get in touch with deeper parts of myself and to spirituality. But
what are some things that come under psychedelics, if you could list?
Come under them?
Yeah.
As in like the different plants and stuff? Okay, like,
Just a few.
I think weed is even technically a psychedelic. It's psychoactive. Mushrooms, LSD, ayahuasca. There's other plants. There's San Pedro, which is cactus. There's mescaline, another cactus. I think even like mdma can be technically, not sure if that's, I think that can even be psychedelic.
Our friend Glenn Wee reckons tomatoes have some kind of effect on our minds.
Wow. Well, like food does change your state. So if you're saying something that changes your state is a drug or psychedelic, then even food, like, when I eat, my state completely changes from a fasted state to then eating, and I feel more like embodied, but a bit slower or whatever. So if we're talking about state change, then anything can be a drug.
You used before mind altering.
Yeah.
Could you talk a bit more about that?
in relation to psychedelics? Or
being able to think with more clarity and go deeper, deal with past trauma, certain struggles in your life where, I personally often find in my mind I'm stuck. I may need to go for a run, go to the gym, and my mind feels different afterwards. The state's different. Depending on how I'm feeling, the way I approach something can be very different. Yeah. I don't know if I'm going off track, but I want to tie it back to how you mentioned mind altering. A lot of people who do this, who try different things for the mind. Yeah, I want to understand why. What benefits are there with mind altering?
Yeah, good question. There's many benefits that have been studied with psilocybin and stuff for the mind and creating neural pathways and stuff. But for me, I'll just speak to my personal experience. And mushrooms, I think, definitely alleviated a lot of anxiety and depression and connected me to something greater. That was one very strong feeling about that big mushroom experience I had, that there was something outside of myself that felt very big and very real. And then that feeling alone kind of alleviates a lot of personal suffering, I find, because it's not just about you anymore, there's something greater. And yeah, it kind of takes you out of your own internal narcissism, which, if we're always thinking about ourselves or what's wrong with us, it can kind of create this kind of, this narcissism, which it's suffering, it's attachment to suffering, and the mind can't escape that loop. And I think when we're stuck in our pain cycles, we get stuck in that and become very self-absorbed. And doesn't mean someone's bad if they're in that state. It's just there's a lack of capacity to see beyond that. And I think psychedelics for me was a way to smash through that, for sure. And mushrooms initially, but I think I was too young to really integrate the lessons and really do the work after that. Because the experience itself doesn't change you. You have to do the work, which is everyday life. But I think when I did Aya, again, it took a long process, but that really gave me deeper insights into myself and how to actually change my life.
What took you to Peru?
Yeah, good question. Well, interestingly, so because I had this experience with mushrooms, I knew the power of plants, but I knew about Aya before I did it for a while. But I was always like, you know what, that's the last resort, because that seems so scary. People in the jungle in darkness vomiting, that's just terrifying to me. So I'm not going to do that until I'm 27, and I was 23 at the time. But I actually I was living in Berlin in 2013, sorry. Yeah, I was partying a lot and doing a lot of drugs and drinking a lot of MDMA, just partying every weekend and having fun, but also suffering, my body was suffering.
What's MDMA used for during parties?
It's ecstasy, or the happiness drug. So it releases whole bunch of serotonin, all of your serotonin if you take a lot, and just makes you feel really loving, empathetic, loved up. Makes you want to touch people or be touched, and anything just feels incredible. Sensory overload, and can make you dance for hours. It makes your body feel good. It kind of takes away any kind of shyness or anxiety or depression. So yeah, I used to just do it and feel amazing and dance.
Must have been like heaven.
It felt like heaven, yeah. But then the next day and the next few days after that feel like hell. So it's you go real up and then you go real down.
Yeah.
So if you're taking bigger amounts, which I always did, I have a very addictive personality. Some people take smaller amounts and then you don't have such a come down. But for me, it was very high and low. Yeah. So it was good, and I learned a lot from it. But also, you can't keep living like that. It was a dangerous path. When I was living in Berlin, and I wasn't sleeping much at this time, and partying, but also just regularly I wasn't sleeping well. I think because of anxious thoughts and probably unhealed trauma. And my roommate in Berlin, who was my friend, he said, "You know what? I know a guy that went to Peru and did ayahuasca, and it helped him with sleep." When he said that, I'm like, okay, I have to go there. It just came to him like
just for sleep.
Well, not just for sleep, but at least the issues of why I'm not sleeping well. And at that time,
right.
I was really in a cycle in my mind where I couldn't get proper rest. Like I'd go to bed and just be thinking constantly, wake up thinking constantly, not even know when I fell asleep or not.
So restless.
Completely restless all the time, and not really knowing why. But like understanding that it was unhealed trauma, and I knew that Aya was a way to get into that. Again, just intuitively, not even from what I had read about it, but I just I had the feeling. I'm like, okay, if I really want to change my life, this is the way to do it. And there's no other way. That's what it felt like at the time.
Yeah. For people who are thinking about it, ayahuasca, what do you have to say?
Where I need to check myself, because after I first did it and felt the effects from it, I was in my ego going around, everyone should do ayahuasca, definitely. Then I went back the next year and had some experiences that I wouldn't wish upon anyone. And not to say they were bad, but they were extremely intense. And if I didn't have certain people around me, I don't know what would have happened. Supportive people. So with that warning, I'd say it's a very individual decision. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. If you feel a strong calling towards it and you really feel like it's right, you're meant to do it, and you figure out a good place to do it, you find a good place, you find a good shaman, you have some kind of reference, or at least you just figure out that it is a right place to do it, then I would say maybe, follow that feeling. But if you want to do it just to say you've done it, or just to try it without a real intention, then I probably, again, it's up to you, but I wouldn't personally do that. I think, there has to be a real strong calling and reason why you're doing it. And also, you really need to be careful where you do it and who you do it with, because I've heard some horror stories about, shamans that aren't proper healers and actually are doing the opposite, abusing people that are under the influence of it. So got to do your research and, figure out where to do it if you want to do it.
The place that I'm going to, as part of their mental preparation guidelines, the first thing they say is intention. It helps to have an intention, like a rudder to your ship to guide your experience.
I would say, that's very, very important. I did have an intention going in, so I'm not sure who told me that, but that seems very important.
Were you going to share your intention at the time, or?
My intention was definitely to deal with, or to look at and feel the grief of losing my father and finding him, and the unprocessed emotions around that experience. That was definitely a strong intention that I had going in.
You were talking about how you were processing some things, and that when you went back the second time, it was a lot harder. Yeah. You were grateful that you had people around you. Otherwise, it could have been bad. Just
in a very extremely vulnerable position, and having experiences that I had no understanding of at the time, no awareness of, didn't really know what was happening. So I was extremely lucky to have, people there. Like the shaman was amazing. He didn't speak English, so he couldn't help with verbalizing what was happening, but I felt a lot of love from him, a lot of warmth.
What is a shaman?
Oh. Well, a lot of people call themselves shamans these days, which, I wouldn't really put that label on them. But this man, he was born into this role. So they say a shaman is like they're born for the role. And his granddad was a shaman, so he grew up just learning about plants. I think he made his first ayahuasca brew at 8 years old. But kind of just like a doctor of plants, knowing all different plants and how they heal people.
Because if it's a doctor of plants, then anyone could study it, no?
Anyone could study that, but I think there's more to it. Like I think there is a certain person or role that some people play that are meant to delve into, kind of helping other people with their psychology and their consciousness. And I still don't logically really understand how they do it, but it feels like they can kind of get into your mind, but like help you through things, help protect you. So because I feel like when you're doing these kind of plant medicines, you're opening yourself up in ways that we don't really understand, and what, things might be able to come through. And even saying that, I understand that might not make sense to people, but You know, if you believe in whatever entities or energies, once we open ourselves up, maybe something can come through and maybe have, you know, people have like psychic attacks or whatever. And again, I guess this depends on your frame of reference of what this might mean. But the shaman's role is to help you, protect you, so nothing's coming in to interfere with your process of healing and transformation. And
there's a certain gift.
It's a gift, yeah. And what's really interesting is, you know, I've read about this in a lot of tribes and, you know, cultures around the world, different native cultures. You know, if someone had symptoms of what we would call in Western psychology, you know, psychosis or whatever, having like a mental breakdown or seeing things or whatever, these were actually the signs in, you know, South America and different cultures that, oh, this person is actually meant to be the shaman of this village. And so an elder would take them through into the jungle or wherever else and take them through certain initiations for them to overcome what they were experiencing, and not just overcome it, but then use actually these talents and gifts to then become a healer themselves. And that's actually referenced in The Hero's Journey, which is something Joseph Campbell talks about, which is you would know that, I guess, in being
for
in
writers.
Film. Yeah, for writers.
Yes.
And it's like pretty much every main, you know, film like Lord of the Rings or Star Wars or
Every hero
goes through this kind of journey. And then apparently we, you know,
and just to summarize, what is that journey?
Yeah, so it's, you know, you're born, you kind of, things are kind of good at the start, you know, you might be having a party or whatever, or, you know, early adulthood, things are kind of all right. And then at some point, and wherever it might be earlier, it might be later, but it's different for everyone. But at some point, a massive crisis happens. And that's when you go down into the depths, you know, you go really deep and down and kind of question.
Almost quit, give up.
Almost quit, maybe nearly die, question everything, feel really vulnerable, maybe... Yeah, you face some dark, deep demons that might, you know, nearly take you, but then you survive it. And somewhere along in that process, you start to actually access your gifts and your power and then come back and become the hero. But that's, you know, it's a different time frame for everyone and we can get stuck in different parts. But yeah, that's the definition of it, I guess.
My mother hears voices constantly, and she does not distinguish it to be an imaginary voice. The voices that she hears, it could be from several gods, several demons. Sometimes the voices can be very negative, dark. Sometimes the voices could be talking about grand missions. It could be taking us to outer space. And when she hears these voices, it's all real to her. She doesn't question it to be hallucination. In Western society, she's diagnosed with schizophrenia. Do you think these kind of voices could actually be real? Could actually be a gift?
Yeah, I mean, the concept of what's real and what's not is already very interesting, you know, like what's the difference between a dream and our awakened state, and is one more real than the other? And it's just our perception ultimately. When it comes to like accessing anything that's outside of this worldly realm, I think it can just be very sensitive people that maybe are accessing different, who knows, dimensions, realities, entities, whether it's angels or demons or whatever it is. And you know, this stuff all seems very far-fetched, but I don't know, now through the experiences I've had, I'm open to these things. I don't fully understand it logically. I don't know if the logical mind can ever understand this, but yeah, for sure, I think people can access certain things. And, you know, Joseph Campbell, who I mentioned before, he kind of talks about reason why people take LSD is to kind of enter into this schizophrenic state, but it's willingly, to kind of access insights that maybe we wouldn't normally have. But the expectation when you take LSD is that you're going to come out of it. And some people don't come out of it. Yeah, I do think this can be symptoms of a great gift, but if we're not taught how to deal with it, and society does the opposite. Society labels these types of people or these symptoms as bad or negative.
Yeah,
I think that can actually have a much more detrimental effect than even the symptoms themselves.
In psychiatry, a logical way to reason it with my mum's hallucinations would be it's an imbalance in her brain chemically, and something's not right there, and therefore she hears and believes things that's not in reality. Very different viewpoint to what, say, a shaman might think.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, I've met people who are shamans. I've met people who call themselves, well, they don't even call themselves, but they're psychic, and they have very powerful abilities. And yeah, I'm not trying to convince anyone that this is real. You know, it's all up to your own experience. For me, these things, the people that I met are very warm, loving, very together in their awareness, and probably the most wise people that I've ever met. And these people are people who might have these experiences that if you talk to a psychiatrist, they would also label you as crazy, but they're not. They're fully integrated, all their abilities. There's nothing that they're suffering from this. They're using it to help others and to heal others and to do these kind of things. So I have witnessed and met these types of people, and I genuinely do feel like these things can be transformed, but it's how we learn to navigate it. And it's I think that's where integration comes in, and having a support system and people to learn from, which we don't have in Western culture, you know, because we just label them and then give you drugs for it, and that's kind of it.
You mentioned to me earlier how you studied transpersonal counselling, and I'm really curious to know how what you learned from that course and about mental illnesses.
Pretty much the meaning for transpersonal is transcending the ego and our own consciousness and what we think of life, and then transcending to something greater, whatever it is, accessing insights or connection to everything, feeling that we're all one, whatever it is, but then being able to bring that back into the everyday life. And that course was incredible because it showed the traditional systems of therapy and healing, and the DSM, which is the book that labels all the different mental illnesses. And then we would also explore
DSM.
Yeah, that's like the diagnostic book for all different mental illnesses, and it gets updated, I think, each year. And so that was interesting because we would go through the mental illnesses, and each, they're essentially a label, and then there's a box with maybe 5 different symptoms, and they say if you have these 5 symptoms, then you can be this label. But it was designed to be able to diagnose people very quickly.
Sure.
As in, like, you come into a psychiatrist's office, these symptoms, boom, take this medicine.
So this is used by, the DSM is used by psychiatrists.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So going through that, and I'm not an expert in it, we just did a few classes on it, but kind of showed how limited that system is, and that, anyone can have these kind of symptoms. So I don't know how that really explains what someone's going through, and it seems like a very superficial way to try to understand someone's issues. It can also be helpful, I do believe. Certain labels can be helpful to have more understanding of certain things, but not to be attached to that's the whole picture, definitely, because it's very limited. It's only, like I said, a bunch of symptoms in a box and then a name attached to that, which, we all go through these kind of symptoms at some point in our life, whether it's anxiety, depression, whatever it is. So, it's weird to kind of just quantify that or label us as that thing. Yeah.
I think you might have mentioned something relating this coming to the heart.
Yeah, so through all these experiences and going through a very deep journey, and Aya definitely took me to, I would say, the darkest parts of my being and really saw my shadow. But ultimately, that is how I think we do access our love and our true potential and our light, and come into our heart is accept all of ourselves and everything that we are and are capable of, which sometimes isn't, the best things in life. And understanding that we are capable of so much, everything, light and dark, but then to accept all of that, really come back into love, into the heart, into acceptance, into loving ourselves and others. And to me, that's what all the spirituality is really essentially about. It's not about these cool there's a lot of cool, interesting things that happen, but really without the love and the acceptance, then none of it really means anything in my point of view. So if we're acting out of our heart and coming from that place, I feel like we're doing good and we're on a good path.
How much does Buddhist teachings have an influence on you?
Big time. My meditation teacher, who I was seeing for maybe 7 years, she was Buddhist. I mean, she was
You
more...
still see her?
Now I don't, because I had to become my own teacher, essentially. And I felt a little bit attached to her. So yeah, I don't see her anymore, but for a long time, she was very, very helpful to me. Yeah, helped me integrate a lot of these experiences that I had opened myself up to, and with spirituality and learning to be with whatever comes up, which is very Buddhist. Just accept things as they are and go with it.
For someone out there who's listening and questioning themselves on what to do next, they're a bit lost, not sure what to do, really struggling, what might you say to them?
Yeah, I would say it's okay. It's okay that you're feeling that way. It's understandable. I feel like everyone can relate to that after the last few years. But yeah, I would say try to learn some ways which you can be with yourself without having to distract yourself from you. So whether that's just sitting or watching nature, watching the birds, writing or drawing or walking, singing, whatever it is, something that helps you just be with yourself in the moment. I think that's maybe one of the most important things we can learn to do, is just to really be with ourselves and not trying to run or distract or hide. And it's amazing what alleviates when we learn to just be present. And that sounds more simple than it is, and it takes practice, but I do believe when we can really sit with ourselves, then there isn't suffering attached to what we're going through. There's still things that come up and things that happen, but if we can be with what's happening, we're not creating more suffering or more worry and anxiety around it. We're just being with it and dealing with it as it is. So I would say that's pretty crucial to try to learn.
How about the question of who am I? Someone who doesn't know who they are and may compare to other people who can say, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, I'm a meditation teacher, I'm this or that. And that person, they know who they are and they need to identify with something. Whereas you're talking about being and accepting things as they are. Could you add to that?
Yeah, I would say, we play different roles in society, whatever our job is, but it's just a role, it's just a label. I do believe that we're much, much deeper beings than any one thing that we do. And there's so much more to someone's essence and to their soul and to their journey than their occupation. And society likes to label people in certain ways, but I think every single person is an extremely amazing, magical being, and the amount of gifts and abundance and love that we can all bring and share is unlimited. And going out to everyone out there, you're all unlimited in your potential, in your abundance, in your love, in your, and pretty much in anything that you want to bring into this world, your creativity, and just by being you, by being yourself. I think that's the most special thing you can bring to the world, is by truly being authentically you.